If I had $1 for every time someone told me to just buy ETFs without explaining what the is an ETF, I'd have enough money to buy a few ETFs. ETFs are everywhere. Every finance YouTuber most likely recommends it. If you've ever said, I'm scared to invest around a guy, chances are he mansplained ETFs to you. And they're all saying the same thing, including myself. Just buy ETFs, bro. But what is it? What's actually inside one? Why do they exist? And how do you even know which one is right for you? Today, I'm going to be breaking it all the way down, soup to nuts, from what investing looked like before ETFs even existed, to exactly what they are, how they work, what goes inside of them, and how to figure out which one fits your actual lifestyle. Hi, I'm KG. I paid off $100,000 of debt in 3 years, and I was investing in ETFs the entire time, even when my contributions were very small. And today I'm going to make this the cleanest explanation you've ever heard. Let's go. Before I start, I really loved the whiteboard YouTube. That's really helped me a lot when I was eliminating debt. So I figured I'd take a stab at it. But then when I started recording this video, I realized I don't have an easel. So I'm going full couch mode here. Bear with me. Let's go into section 1. To understand why ETFs are a big deal, you have to understand what investing looked like before them. I'm very fortunate enough to not have invested before this was even a thing. Picture this. It's the 1970s. You want to invest your money. Cool. Here are your options. Option 1, you hire a stockbroker, an actual human being whose entire job is to call you on the phone, tell you which stocks to buy, charge you a commission every single time you make a trade, and then he goes and plays golf. Option 2, you try to pick stocks yourself, which means you need to do research on individual companies using a newspaper that was delivered to you daily, read the financial statement that were written by lawyers, and then just hope. That was it. Those were your 2 options. Investing was genuinely gatekept. It was expensive. So you had big dollar signs on these bad boys. It was confusing and built for people who either had a lot of money already or they knew nothing about it and got hosed by fees for years. Like Carlos from accounting with $200 to invest. Yeah, good luck, buddy. Call the broker, pay his fee, and pray you picked the right company. What makes this really interesting is that most of those brokers, despite charging you all of this money, weren't even beating the market. It turns out picking winning stocks consistently is actually really hard, even for professionals. Who knew? So someone, and I want to shake this person's hand, said, what if instead of trying to beat the market, we just owned the whole thing? That's where index funds came from. And ETFs are essentially the evolved, more accessible version of that idea. Which brings me to section number 2. ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. I know it's not the most exciting 3 words, but stick with me. Here's the simplest way I could explain it. Imagine you want to eat at every great restaurant in your city, but you can't afford to go to 500 restaurants. So instead, someone creates a sampler basket, a little bit of every restaurant packaged into one thing that you can buy for a reasonable price. That's an ETF. It's a basket of investments, usually stocks that you can buy as one single thing on the stock market. When you buy one share of an ETF that tracks, let's say, the S&P 500, you're not buying one company, you're buying a tiny slice of 500 of the biggest companies. For example, Apple or Google or Amazon. Love my writing. All of them in one purchase. The exchange traded part just means that you could buy it and sell it on the stock market like any other stock. It's an easy in and out. Oh, and the fees, obviously, like the fees that these guys used to charge still exist, but it's dramatically lower. So like a smaller dollar bill there. It's way lower than paying a human to manage your money. We're talking like 0.03 to 0.2% annually on most ETFs versus like the 1 to 2% or more of an active fund that's managed for you. That difference sounds small until you do the numbers or you do the math over 30 years. It's actually kind of insane, but that's a whole other video. When I first started investing, I strictly only started investing in ETFs because again, I was very intimidated by the vast amount of different companies out there. I wasn't interested in spending the time in learning about each individual company. So I researched and learned these. I had a few recommendations from some friends, and I said, you know what? These sound right for me. Over time, I learned more, but I would say as soon as I downloaded my first investing app, which was Wealthsimple, and started using it, this made my life way easier. Okay, so here's a question nobody asks, but everybody should, is who decides what goes inside an ETF? If you're experienced in this stuff, then you'll get what I'm about to explain pretty easily. But if any of this is new to you, please ask the questions in the comments. The answer is it depends on what the ETF is tracking. And most popular ETFs track what's called an index. An index is just a list. It's a pre-made rule book for which companies qualify to be included on that index. So the S&P 500 index, for example, has a committee of smarty pants people that decide which 500 large US companies make the cut based on a few things like the size of the company, profitability, and how much of their stocks are available for regular people like you and me. Companies get added to this list, but companies can also get removed. The index updates and the ETF that tracks that index updates automatically. You didn't have to do anything. It just adjusts. This is why ETFs are often called like the passive investing. There's no genius fund manager making big calls every day. The index does the work. The ETF follows it. Your money rides along, which brings us to the part that everyone actually wants to know. Now, before I get into the different types and how to figure out which one is for you, if this is clicking for you at all, hit the like button. It's free. You literally cannot afford to not click. Also subscribe if you're new, because we talk about this stuff every week and we try to make it the least painful thing possible. Okay, back to it. Here's where people get tripped up. They hear just buy ETFs and think ETF is like one specific thing, and it's not. And this is what confused me when I first started. ETFs are a structure. What's inside one can completely be different depending on which one you pick. Let me break down the main flavors. Here are the 4 of them that are in existence. I ran out of space on my board. I didn't plan it out perfectly. First is the broad market ETFs. These track the whole market, or a huge chunk of it. Think VOO or VFV, which track the S&P 500, or VEQT here in Canada, which gives you global exposure all in one. These are the set it and mostly forget it options. They're very low drama and historically solid, pretty good option. Next is the sector ETF. These focus on one specific industry. So think like tech or healthcare or energy. There's a way higher potential upside, but also higher risk. If that sector tanks, you will feel it. Next is the bonds ETF. Instead of stocks, these hold bonds. These are more stable, but less growth. So these are very good for people closer to retirement who don't want to watch their entire portfolio swing as much, or if you're scared of a little bit of risk. Then there's the all-in-one ETF, like XEQT or VGRO in Canada. These are ETFs that hold other ETFs inside of them. They're automatic diversification across stocks and bonds globally. It's genuinely one of the easiest ways to begin investing for beginners. Personally, I used broad market almost exclusively. I started buying them in very small amounts, even when I was aggressively paying down my debt, because I knew that time in the market mattered more. Hindsight is such a cool thing because I could look back at my old charts in 2020, 2021, when I was aggressively paying down my debt, but I made very small contributions to these bad boys. And I'm really glad I did, because at the time when you're investing, you don't see too much of a spike all the time. But looking back at it, I'm profiting off of it now, and it's really cool to see. Okay, so here's the honest answer on which ETF should I buy. It depends on your risk tolerance. And I know that sounds like a cop-out, but let me actually make this useful. Risk tolerance basically means how much would your stomach drop if your entire portfolio went down 30%? Because it happens. Markets go up and down. The question is whether you'd sell everything or whether you'd stay calm and keep buying. So I'm gonna help you out with some questions. I'll give you 3 questions to ask yourself to determine your risk level. Question number 1, how old are you and when do you need this money? If you're 28 and this is retirement money that you won't touch for 30 years, you can afford to go a bit more aggressive. More stocks, more growth ETFs. You have time to ride out the dips. If you're 55 and retiring in 10 years, you probably want a little bit more stability. So you're probably thinking more bonds over here. Question number 2, how would you actually react to a crash? And this is the part where you have to be honest with yourself. There might be a time where you lose $5,000 in an afternoon. How likely are you to panic? Would you be chill and think, long term? Only you know this. How a good maybe baseline is, how have you handled risk in the past? Think about it like that. That's probably a really good indicator of how you could assess your risk. Question number 3, what is this money actually for? Is it for an emergency fund? Don't put it in ETFs. Is it for a down payment that you need in 3 years? Also probably not. But long-term wealth, retirement, or financial freedom, ETFs are one of the most solid tools available to a regular person. Me, personally, I'm in my 30s. I have time. I lean more aggressive. Again, heavy on the broad market ETFs. I've learned over time that I'm actually okay watching my portfolio move around because I am not touching it for a very long time. That is not a recommendation for you. It's just context for how these decisions actually look like in reality. But it looks like most of my viewers are around the same age, so do with that information what you will. But for me, I'm in my 30s. My timeline is a long time, so I'm moving a little bit closer to the middle. I'm learned that I'm very comfortable with volatility, so I'm moving a little bit more risky. And then what is this money for? It's for my retirement. So I moved it all the way down to the right side. I do have a little tiny bit of safe, mainly because that's just a small part of me. It's human nature, I think. So to answer the ultimate question, what the is an ETF? ETFs exist because the old way of investing was gatekept and expensive and difficult for regular people. They're a basket of investments that you can buy in one shot, and they remove almost every excuse that the average person had for not investing, including the excuse that you need to figure out which stocks to pick. You don't. The index figures that out for you. Which one is right for you comes down to your timeline, your honesty about your own emotions during a crash, and what this money is actually for. And if you want to see exactly what's in my portfolio, like which specific ETFs I hold and why, I break it down completely in this video right here. Go watch that next. Drop a comment below. Did this click for you? Is my drawing skills and my writing skills up to par? Or is there still something about ETFs that sounds confusing? Tell me in the comments and I'll make another video about it. I'll see you next week.